Hey there, and welcome back to another My Hero Academia Vigilantes video, and today we're going to be talking about the latest episode to drop, episode 12, Goodbye to Dad, which I think is the penultimate episode of the season. Yep, just took a look and seems as if episode 13 is going to be the finale. Damn, it's all flown by so quickly. No time to get melancholy, we got to get into things. Because this is a damn good episode filled with some really great action sequences and a whole lot of emotion. Let's jump into it. We start off the episode with a brief cold open where Midnight calls Aizawa to ask where he is, with him replying that there was a villain attack, hence the power outage, and assumes that they have to cancel the concert. Pretty much just setting the scene early. We then get the intro theme, and when we return, the concert is in crisis mode. Midnight informs Makoto that there's no power anywhere in the vicinity, and it's looking likely they might have to call off the event. At least until Captain Celebrity appears, and Makoto's able to send him off to fetch some generators that they can use to kickstart things in the mall again. That does mean, though, that they need to buy some time, and since Present Mike isn't able to go out and keep the crowd calm because he has to be on standby in case there's another villain attack, it does mean that they're well and truly screwed, until Koichi appears in his crawler gear and reveals that he went home and got Pop's microphone that she carries around for her street performances that will let her speak directly to the crowd and handle things until the power comes back. I gotta say, this dude is really bad at the whole secret identity thing. He's a known vigilante in Naruhara. He's going by his own name as Pop's manager. They acknowledge that he is the crawler and he's Koichi when he lands and gives her the microphone. He doesn't pull up his mask, and there are pro-heroes standing just over there that could arrest him, right? He's technically a criminal, a vigilante. He illegally uses his quirk. Dude is very lucky. So Pop gets a pep talk from pretty much everybody backstage, and this leads to her making her way on stage with wobbly legs, which they then use as a really cool transition to a shot of Hachisuka running away from Knuckleduster, looking absolutely worse for wear. As he chases her in a really fun and fast-paced little scene, he manages to actually answer his phone, which is a call from the hospital to tell him his wife's condition has changed. Oh man, shit. He's gonna save his daughter, but his wife's gonna die. Guarantee it. And that's just sad. Especially since then his daughter might have all that guilt of feeling like that she's the reason she died in the first place. And this show's getting heavier than I expected it to be, but I like that. We then cut back over to Pop Step, and she starts off pretty strong. She's able to give out the message of what's going on and get some crowd support, but then the nerves seemingly get to her, and she begins to ramble about how she needs to do a nervous piss, but in an emotional way, not a physical way, because after all, she went before she came up on stage. Yikes. Crash and burn. But to tell you the truth, it felt very accurate to my high school days when some 15-year-old was emceeing an event, and they'd always start strong and then they'd fade away hard from the nerves. Unlike Pop Step though, those guys never recovered and they never won back the crowd. They didn't have a fan club to help them out. Luckily, she gets through the cringe and her natural charisma and presence kick in, getting the crowd behind her again as she starts up a song. I have to say, I find it very funny the show tries to tell you again and again and again that her character sucks at singing, and yet she bursts out into this really good song? Like, what? It was the same when Koichi first saw her on the street in episode 1. He claimed she had a mid-voice, and yet it sounded fine to me. So she bursts out into a song that's very clearly about Koichi, referencing how they met a long time ago, and that whilst he's forgotten, she can never forget. It references how she's in love with him. And even what he said about putting on his All Might hoodie and feeling like he can be a hero with his inner strength that it brings out in him. Mid-performance, those stupid blue-haired girls are still shit-talking. Even after in the last episode, Pop was so nice to them, despite them being rude before. Nah, get bent. Meanwhile, Aizawa was down there on the street with the eel guy who's getting awakened by Pop Step's performance, before Aizawa notices a bee taking a sample from the eel. He managed to knock it away, but it did have a lot of what seemed to be trigger extracted. On my first watch through, I really did not clock onto the fact that this is Hachisuka stealing his lightning quirk so she can fight Knuckleduster with it. I thought that the daughter must have had a quirk that was awakened by Super Trigger. I know now it's obvious, but it really just did slip my mind. Also, I have to say it's wild to see how different younger Aizawa is to the older, grizzled, worn-out teacher we see in the main show. Here, he's kind of cracking jokes with the eel, he's smiling a lot more, hell, even being sarcastic on the phone with Midnight earlier. Oh no, I had to fight a villain. Oh no, the show might be cancelled. Meanwhile, in the mainline show, he very much gives off a let me die type of vibe. I like that they actually bothered to make him seem different. Then it's back to Hachisuka, who has now finally been cornered by Knuckleduster, who reveals that he masterminded their whole chase, having known what her athletic abilities would be, and leading her down the perfect path to a dead end. He also claims he knows what her strategy will be to fight him, to shoot up with a booster to try to steamroll him to escape. Okay, so this dude has to have been some sort of pro-hero, right? Or in analysis? There's no chance some random dude trying to get his daughter back would be capable of this level of insane planning and combat strategy after what I assume would be a couple of months to a year of trying to find his daughter. In turn, his monologue reveals that this is all going to plan. He wants her to use Trigger because he thinks it's going to alter her brain chemistry and disrupt the bond between the host and the parasite. Usually there's a composite personality formed by the B user and the brain of its host. But when Trigger's used, the personality of the host comes to the forefront, which I suppose Knuckles thinks will make her easy to overcome. He's probably right, because then we see via flashback that he was a very shit dad who used to yell and degrade his daughter for wanting to play music instead of focusing on a more realistic future. Not quite an Endeavor level dad, but he wasn't a good one by any means either. He scared her away with his anger, she got taken by the B user, and when she came back she lobotomized her mother. These repressed memories get her angry and aggressive, and probably would have played right into his hands if the trigger from the eel's body didn't arrive just as she was charging in, giving her the power to shock him and potentially kill him via stopping his heart. Damn, this was a great little sequence, and like I said, for me that attack was completely unexpected. I liked that he, and I, were suddenly caught off guard like that. He always seems to have the perfect plans, he always seems to know what to do, so it was good to see it go wrong for once and see him have to adjust. Obviously he wasn't dead, but still, it gave me a good shock to see him get one-shotted like that. We then flashed back to see him speaking with Giran, the black market guy that would end up working with the League of Villains. I will say I'm not sure I liked this. Yes, it's a fun little fan service moment, but it does start to make the world feel very small. Are there seriously no other bars and black market dealers in all of Tokyo? If this guy is so well known, that why hasn't he been dealt with before? Even if the cops wouldn't touch him, isn't this the type of thing that a Hero Commission Black Ops hero would deal with? Regardless, it is a fun little scene that sets the stage for the future. First, it's revealed that he seems to be abusing painkillers, and that if he keeps going at this rate, it's going to give him permanent brain damage. We also get the information about how he's going to survive and how he's going to win. His little stun gun is also a defib machine, which he can use to counteract the shock, and there's bug gas, I guess, to lure the bugs out so he can kill them all at once. Back at the concert, the power comes back on, and it's time for the performance. Now this was a fun little song, and a good palate cleanser scene after the violence we'd seen. I will admit, I found it very funny that they just straight up threw the events of the previous episode out the window. Pop Step and one of the blue characters were meant to be on the outside, and the other blue character was meant to be in the middle, not dancing because she's injured her foot. Then when the song starts, they have both blue characters on the outside, Pop's in the middle, and they are all dancing the same way. There's no accounting for the injury. I know it's just a small thing, but it was such a big moment last episode, and so it was the first thing I noticed here. Still, the song was very fun, and so it didn't bother me all that much. We then come back to Hachiska versus Knuckleduster. She makes it to the outside of the concert building and is still planning on going through with trying to make a scene, making a villain. Honestly, considering how worn out she is, I figured the best plan would be to get the hell away from here, especially since she knows that there are multiple pro heroes in the vicinity of the concert. There's a higher risk of getting caught, especially since she's covered in blood and absolutely cooked. Instead, she lingers there, and this allows Knuckleduster to catch up with her, and for them to get ready to fight again. This whole section where he's trying to get her to break free of the bee's control and get fired up and angry, it's very beautiful. And although he was a poor father, I suppose it is something that he's dedicated his life since to trying to save her at the cost of his own body. She charges him again, and for a moment, she actually looks like she's hurting him a bit. But even with all her quirks, he's way too strong, and she's on borrowed time. She doesn't have the luxury of trying to wear him down because Tomo's body is starting to fail. There's a pretty epic exchange of blows, and then Knuckles just starts whooping ass. He lands a big hit with the taser, which sends her into heart failure, and then he stops her from using the eel quirk to restore the heartbeat. Essentially, he's playing a game of chicken with the bee and his daughter's body. He's trying to smoke her out of Tomo by letting her die, and it works, and he's able to extract the queen and kill it with that gas bomb, which also attracts a bunch of the worker bees, before he uses the defib function on his taser and starts to give chest compressions whilst declaring that he's going to take her home, that her mother's waiting for her, so she can't die here. Now, they don't actually give you the information as to whether this works, but yeah, it was never going to fail. They're not going to kill off both his wife and daughter in one fell swoop and end his arc like that. Even without the preview for the final episode, that was pretty damn clear. Man, that was a really great ending to that villain, to tell you the truth. For this whole season, she's been this dark, brooding force that's always in control. She's masterminding from behind the scenes and utterly lacking in mercy and empathy, always so mocking and cruel. Only for her to get absolutely destroyed again and again and again by one of her own victims, sealing her own fate. You love to see it. If she'd chosen any other host, she would have gotten away with it. But she messed with Knuckleduster, and she paid the price. Then we check back in with Aizawa and the eel, who's being cuffed and loaded into a police van. Aizawa once again shows some uncharacteristic compassion for this dude, and asks the police to hang tight so they can listen to the end of the concert. It's crazy how youthful he feels here. So much less cynical and jaded.
This guy's just trying to provoke you. He won't talk.
He probably gets way more sleep than he does as a teacher, so maybe that's part of it. I would have found this more sweet if I hadn't discovered that this guy is also a 19-year-old creeping on a 14-year-old. So with that in mind, load his slimy ass into the back of the van, please and thank you. Don't let him listen. He's a stalker! Aizawa briefly talks to the detective guy. Doesn't really grip me. The detective never does. We get a look at our new villain, a dude with long dark hair posing as a cop who has some sort of super speed quirk that he uses to catch the last worker bee. Interesting. I guess we'll probably learn a little bit more about him in the next episode, but for the most part, this will be a question for season 2. That's where the episode ends, but of course, we still have the preview. We see that Tamo's in the hospital and Soga is there. Oh, sure, bring the predator around your daughter. Maybe his parenting skills have not improved in the time since she got possessed. We also see that Knuckles has seemingly retired from being a vigilante without a word to Koichi, who's going to keep on fighting without him. I guarantee it's going to end with Koichi losing a fight, and Knuckleduster is going to come in out of nowhere and save him at the last second. We also see Captain Celebrity turn up at Koichi's house and get kicked in the face by Pop, who I think was changing clothes behind that curtain. So are the two of them going to be teaming up again? Is he going back to America and saying goodbye? Makoto also seems to be in danger in the next episode too. There's a flying villain, so seems as if this new guy is going to be picking up where Hachisuka left off. It's pretty exciting to see where it all leads, and so with all that being said, that's the end of the episode, and these have all been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Did you like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.